There comes a time in every woman's life when the weight of yesterday collides with the possibilities of tomorrow. It's that moment when the ordinary no longer satisfies, when the comfort zone feels too small, and when the call of destiny begins to stir deep inside. You know you weren't created just to exist. You were created to live with purpose, to walk in power, and to step boldly into the assignment heaven placed upon your life. There comes a moment in a woman's life when the things that once satisfied her no longer carry the same weight they used to. What once brought her peace now feels incomplete. What once gave her joy now feels temporary. She wakes up in the morning with a sense that something more is waiting, something greater is calling, and she can no longer ignore the pull in her spirit. It isn't dissatisfaction with life itself. It's a deeper longing for alignment with the purpose she was created for. That tug inside is the holy discomfort that signals change is coming. This discomfort doesn't always make sense to those around her. People may tell her she should be content, grateful, or simply stay where she is. But destiny has a way of shaking the foundations of comfort. She finds herself unsettled, no longer at ease with mediocrity. Her spirit keeps whispering that she wasn't created just to survive. She was created to thrive, to lead, to build, to influence, to walk in a calling bigger than her present situation. Sometimes that holy discomfort shows up as restlessness in her current environment. She may be surrounded by success on the outside, but on the inside, she knows she hasn't even scratched the surface of what she is meant to do. She may find herself in a career, a relationship, or a routine that looks stable, but her soul is crying out for something deeper. That inner stirring is not there to frustrate her. It is there to move her. The discomfort often intensifies when she tries to ignore it. The more she attempts to silence that voice inside, the louder it grows. Doors that once opened easily now begin to close. Opportunities that once looked appealing no longer excite her. She starts to lose interest in things she used to chase. That is the divine way of making sure she doesn't settle in a place that is too small for her destiny. There may also be sleepless nights when her mind and heart wrestle with the gap between where she is and where she knows she is meant to be. She finds herself imagining possibilities, envisioning a future that looks nothing like her present. She may even feel torn because part of her wants to remain safe while another part longs to break free. That internal conflict is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of growth. The holy discomfort also reveals itself in a heightened sensitivity to time. She becomes more aware that life is short, and wasting it in the wrong place is no longer an option. She realizes she cannot afford to keep postponing her calling. She feels an urgency to move, to prepare, to stretch herself for what's next. What others consider pressure, she interprets as a divine push. At times, this discomfort shows up in her conversations. She may begin speaking about change without even realizing it. Words of vision, purpose, and destiny slip into her vocabulary. Her heart no longer gravitates toward shallow discussions, but longs for depth, substance, and impact. Even the way she interacts with others begins to shift, because she can no longer be content with small talk when her spirit is hungry for transformation. The people around her may start to notice the change, even if she can't fully explain it. They may see her withdraw from circles that no longer feed her growth. They may see her decline opportunities that once thrilled her. They may notice her stepping back to spend more time in reflection, prayer, or preparation. That holy discomfort creates space for clarity, and in that space, destiny begins to unfold. It is not unusual for her to feel misunderstood in this season. Some may think she is restless, ungrateful, or even confused. But in truth, she is being awakened. She is being called higher. And with that calling comes the shedding of old skins, old patterns, and old ways of thinking. The discomfort is evidence that her present cannot contain the weight of her future. Every great destiny is preceded by a season of divine unsettlement. That uncomfortable place is not designed to break her, but to stretch her. It pushes her beyond complacency, beyond convenience, and into courage. What feels like restlessness is actually readiness. What feels like agitation is actually acceleration. And though she may not see the full picture yet, the stirring in her soul is the undeniable sign that destiny is on the horizon. From the very beginning, every woman is surrounded by voices that try to define who she is and what she can or cannot do. Some of these voices come from family, some from friends, others from society, and many from her own insecurities. For a long time, she may have allowed these voices to shape her choices, guide her decisions, and even limit her vision. But when she is about to step into destiny, something shifts. She begins to hear those voices differently, and instead of letting them dictate her future, she starts to rise above them. She recognizes that not every voice deserves authority in her life. The voice that told her she isn't smart enough, pretty enough, or capable enough begins to lose its power. The voice that constantly reminded her of past failures no longer echoes as loudly as it once did. She begins to understand that if she allows those voices to control her, she will never fully embrace the greatness within her. Breaking free means reclaiming the power to decide whose words shape her journey. This freedom often comes with a new level of courage. She learns to say no to opinions that try to confine her and yes to the truth that empowers her. It doesn't mean those negative voices disappear overnight. It means she no longer bows to them. She stops asking for permission to live boldly. She stops shrinking so others can feel comfortable. She stops waiting for validation from people who were never meant to carry her vision. Sometimes the limiting voices aren't external, they're internal. That inner critic that whispers, "You can't do this, you'll fail again," or "Who do you think you are?" used to hold her hostage. But now she starts to confront those lies with a new perspective. She understands that destiny requires silencing not only the doubters around her, but also the doubt within her. That shift is not easy, but it is necessary. As she breaks free, she notices her posture change. She stands taller. She speaks with greater confidence. She makes choices that align with who she is becoming rather than who she used to be. People around her might be surprised by this change, but it is simply the evidence of a woman reclaiming her voice. The power she once gave away to others, she now takes back. She also begins to redefine relationships. Voices that once drained her energy or discouraged her progress begin to fade from her inner circle. She learns the difference between people who challenge her to grow and people who chain her to her past. She doesn't cut people off out of arrogance. She simply learns that not every voice is worthy of access to her destiny. This maturity allows her to protect her spirit while pursuing her purpose. Breaking free also means choosing carefully what she allows into her ears and mind. She becomes intentional about what she listens to, what she reads, and what she surrounds herself with. Instead of filling her heart with noise that limits her, she seeks out wisdom that builds her. She understands that her destiny requires her to be selective, because what she hears today will shape who she becomes tomorrow. At this stage, boldness starts to rise. She is no longer swayed by gossip, doubt, or small thinking. She knows her worth, and she knows her assignment. Even when others try to talk her out of pursuing her dreams, She refuses to be pulled back into the box of their expectations. She has tasted freedom, and once a woman knows what it feels like to break free, she will never go back to chains. The transformation is evident not just in her words, but also in her actions. She takes steps that others once thought impossible for her. She makes decisions that reflect faith instead of fear. She creates space for her gifts to shine. Every move she makes becomes a statement that she will not be confined by the voices that tried to hold her down. Her life becomes a living declaration that she chooses her future over their limitations. And though the voices may still try to rise from time to time, she has learned a vital truth: they no longer define her. What once silenced her now fuels her determination. What once kept her captive now reminds her of how far she has come. She has broken free, and in that freedom, she begins to step into the unshakable confidence that destiny requires. Pressure has a way of revealing what is hidden beneath the surface. When life presses down, it exposes strength, resilience, and faith in ways that comfort never could. A woman on the verge of destiny often finds herself in seasons where the weight of responsibility, trials, and challenges feel heavier than ever before. Yet instead of collapsing under that weight, she learns to stand. She discovers that patience under pressure is not weakness, but the very evidence that she is being prepared for something greater. This endurance doesn't come naturally. It is forged through experience. She remembers the moments she thought she wouldn't make it, yet here she is, still standing. Every hardship has taught her something about her own capacity. She has realized that pain produces growth, and growth cannot come without seasons of stretching. That stretching feels uncomfortable, but it equips her for what lies ahead. Patience in pressure is not about pretending the struggle isn't real. It is about refusing to let the struggle control the outcome. She acknowledges the tears, the frustration, and the fatigue, but she does not surrender to them. Instead, she uses them as fuel to keep moving forward. She learns to breathe through the difficulty, trusting that the process is shaping her character. Often, the pressure comes in waves: financial strain, family responsibilities, personal setbacks, or unexpected losses. These moments test her resolve. But rather than seeing them as obstacles meant to destroy her, she begins to interpret them as refining fires. Just like gold is purified by heat, her destiny is purified by pressure. The longer she endures, the more valuable and unshakable she becomes. Her patience under pressure also teaches her discipline. She realizes that not every problem requires an immediate reaction. Sometimes the strongest response is waiting, observing, and trusting. She learns that timing matters, and rushing ahead of the process can cause more harm than good. Patience gives her the wisdom to let things unfold, knowing that destiny cannot be microwaved. It must be developed. In these seasons, she often finds her faith deepening. When pressure surrounds her and answers seem far away, she leans into the unseen. She learns to believe in promises before she sees proof. This posture doesn't remove the pressure, but it strengthens her to carry it differently. She stops asking only for the pressure to end and starts asking for the strength to endure it with grace. Her endurance also becomes a silent testimony to those watching her. People see her walking through storms with composure, holding her head high even when life tries to bow her down. Her patience inspires others who might be tempted to give up. They may not know the full details of her struggle, but they can see her perseverance, and that alone becomes a light of encouragement. Sometimes patience means taking one step at a time instead of sprinting toward the finish line. She accepts that destiny is not a quick race, but a long journey. She learns to celebrate small victories, to honor the process, and to recognize that every delay is not a denial. What she once thought was a setback often turns out to be a setup for something far greater. The pressure also teaches her to rely less on her own strength and more on inner resilience. She discovers reserves of courage she never knew she had. She begins to understand that true strength is not measured by how fast she escapes the fire, but by how well she walks through it. Patience allows her to embrace the journey instead of resenting it. Every moment under pressure becomes a lesson in endurance, a step closer to her destiny. What once felt unbearable begins to feel purposeful. The weight that seemed designed to crush her instead strengthens her. She becomes steady, unmovable, and unshaken, not because the pressure disappears, but because patience has taught her how to carry it with wisdom and grace. There comes a shift in her life when she no longer looks at things only through the lens of what is visible. She begins to sense that there is more happening than what the eye can see. Circumstances that used to intimidate her lose their grip because she has started to recognize a greater reality at work. What others call coincidence, she sees as divine alignment. What others dismiss as chance, she perceives as part of a larger plan unfolding before her. This new vision allows her to interpret challenges differently. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" she begins to ask, "What is this preparing me for?" She no longer views obstacles as permanent walls, but as stepping stones meant to guide her upward. Even when doors close, she learns to trust that unseen hands are directing her steps toward better opportunities that align with her destiny. Seeing beyond the natural also sharpens her discernment. She becomes more aware of motives, intentions, and hidden truths. She notices details others overlook, and she senses warning signs others ignore. This discernment protects her from walking into traps and prepares her to make wiser decisions. Her vision is no longer limited to what is obvious. It stretches into realms of insight that strengthen her path forward. There is a confidence that grows within her because of this perspective. While others panic at storms, she holds her peace because she knows storms never last forever. While others give up when resources seem scarce, she trusts that provision will appear in ways she cannot yet imagine. Her vision allows her to move with assurance, not because everything is clear, but because she knows there is a purpose, even in what she cannot see. This ability to see beyond the natural often separates her from the crowd. She may be misunderstood, even questioned, because people around her cannot grasp what she perceives. They may call her unrealistic, but she is simply operating with a different lens. She is not bound by the visible. She is guided by the invisible. That ability to perceive possibilities before they manifest is what positions her to walk into her destiny ahead of others who rely only on what is tangible. Her new vision also impacts how she treats others. Instead of judging people only by their present circumstances, she begins to see their potential. She speaks life into those who feel broken. She encourages those who are weary, and she lifts up those who have been overlooked. She sees beyond flaws into the greatness within people, and this gift allows her to build relationships rooted in purpose rather than appearances. She also develops the courage to dream bigger. Where she once felt confined by what she thought was possible, she now envisions greater opportunities, larger impact, and deeper fulfillment. This imagination isn't fantasy. It is faith in motion. She starts planning for possibilities others think are out of reach, because she believes in realities that are not yet visible but already alive within her spirit. At times, this expanded vision creates tension. The world around her may still look the same, but she knows she cannot go back to the way she used to think. Her heart is already leaning into the future, even when her feet are still in the present. This tension pushes her to prepare, to stretch, and to stay focused, because she knows what she sees with the eyes of faith will eventually manifest in her life. Her ability to see beyond the natural becomes a source of strength in moments of uncertainty. When answers are delayed, when the path looks dark, when others give up, she remains anchored by what she believes rather than what she sees. She doesn't deny reality. She simply refuses to let it define her. This perspective gives her resilience that confusion and chaos cannot destroy. What sets her apart is not just what she does, but how she perceives what is happening around her. She sees doors where others see walls. She sees beginnings where others see endings. She sees light even in the darkest of nights. This shift in vision is what prepares her to walk into her destiny, because destiny always requires eyes that can see beyond the natural. There comes a season when she realizes that not everything she has carried with her can remain as she steps forward. The habits, places, and even people that once felt essential begin to feel like weights pulling her backward. She senses that if she keeps holding on, she will stay stuck in a cycle that no longer fits the woman she is becoming. Walking away is not an act of rejection, but an act of recognition that her future cannot be built on foundations that were only meant for her past. She begins to notice how her spirit responds differently to environments she once tolerated. What once felt normal now feels draining. Conversations that used to amuse her now feel shallow. Patterns she once accepted now make her restless. This awareness doesn't come from arrogance, but from growth. She understands that in order to embrace new seasons, she has to release the things that no longer serve her progress. Often, this walking away requires courage because it means leaving the familiar. There is a comfort in what is known, even when it is limiting. Yet she chooses to face the discomfort of change rather than the stagnation of staying where she doesn't belong. That decision marks the beginning of her transformation. She is not running from something, she is moving towards something greater. Sometimes this choice involves relationships. People who once walked closely with her may no longer share the same vision, values, or priorities. She doesn't despise them, but she recognizes they cannot accompany her into the next chapter. Her future requires alignment, and she cannot afford to be weighed down by connections that keep her tied to an old version of herself. It also extends to habits and routines. She recognizes the patterns that consume her energy without producing growth. Whether it's procrastination, negative self-talk, or distractions that steal her focus, she begins to let them go one by one. Each decision to walk away creates more space for discipline, clarity, and intentional living. Destiny demands room, and she makes that room by releasing what no longer serves her. Walking away doesn't always happen suddenly. Sometimes it unfolds gradually. She might first feel a gentle nudge, then a stronger pull, and finally a clear conviction that it's time to move. The process can be painful because it often involves sacrifice. Yet with each step of release, she feels lighter, freer, and more aligned with the woman she is destined to be. This process also sharpens her focus. Without the noise of unhelpful voices or draining environments, she can hear her inner direction more clearly. She no longer spends energy on battles that don't matter. She no longer pours herself into things that don't produce fruit. Her time, her thoughts, and her heart become centered on what builds her future rather than what binds her past. At times, the decision to walk away may be misunderstood. Others may question her choices, accuse her of changing, or try to guilt her into staying the same. But she understands that destiny requires separation. She is not obligated to remain in places that no longer nurture her growth. Her strength lies in knowing that saying goodbye is sometimes the most powerful step towards saying yes to her calling. As she walks away, she begins to encounter new doors opening before her. The energy that was once wasted on maintaining what was broken is now invested in building what is purposeful. She discovers that the very act of letting go creates room for fresh opportunities, healthier relationships, and stronger faith. Her decision to release becomes the very thing that positions her for increase. In this season, her stride becomes more intentional. She no longer clings to things out of fear of loss. She understands that every release is not the end of her story, but the refining of it. Walking away from what no longer serves her future is not abandonment. It is advancement. It is the quiet but powerful declaration that she is ready to carry only what will carry her into her destiny. There comes a point when she grows tired of wearing masks just to fit in. For too long, she may have hidden parts of herself to gain approval, to avoid criticism, or to match the expectations placed upon her. But now she is beginning to realize that her true strength is not found in pretending to be someone else. It is found in embracing exactly who she was created to be. This awareness gives her a new kind of confidence that cannot be shaken by comparison or doubt. She starts to value the qualities that make her different instead of treating them as flaws. What once made her feel inadequate now becomes the very thing that sets her apart. The uniqueness of her personality, the story of her journey, the blend of her gifts. These are not accidents, they are assignments. By accepting them, she discovers a source of empowerment that no outside validation can give. Her identity also becomes an anchor in seasons of change. While circumstances may shift and people may come and go, she stands firm in knowing who she is. She no longer defines herself by titles, roles, or achievements, because those things can be temporary. Instead, she grounds herself in the unchanging truth of her worth. This unshakable identity keeps her steady when life tries to unsettle her. In this space of clarity, she silences the voices that once told her she wasn't enough. She refuses to measure her life against the standards of others. Instead of striving to compete, she chooses to cultivate. Instead of trying to impress, she focuses on impact. She no longer wastes time trying to earn approval that was never needed in the first place. Her strength now comes from an internal assurance rather than external applause. This strength in identity reshapes her relationships. She no longer clings to connections that require her to shrink. She surrounds herself with people who value her authenticity instead of demanding her conformity. By standing in her truth, she naturally attracts those who celebrate her instead of those who try to control her. Her relationships begin to reflect her growth because she refuses to compromise her identity for acceptance. She also approaches opportunities differently. Instead of doubting her ability, she trusts her preparation. She recognizes that her skills, experiences, and wisdom are not accidental but purposeful. She doesn't shy away from doors that open before her because she knows she belongs in the spaces where her voice, vision, and presence are needed. The strength of her identity gives her the courage to take up space without apology. Her sense of identity also shapes her decisions. She chooses paths that align with her values rather than those that simply promise popularity or ease. She is no longer tempted to chase after everything that shines. Instead, she pursues what resonates with who she truly is. This alignment not only protects her peace, but also ensures her energy is invested in the right places. In moments of failure, she does not collapse into shame because she understands that mistakes do not define her worth. She sees setbacks as lessons, not labels. Her identity gives her resilience to rise after disappointment because she knows that her value does not decrease when circumstances don't go her way. She has learned that her core remains strong even when outcomes are uncertain. This strength radiates in the way she carries herself. Her presence becomes commanding not because she demands attention, but because authenticity naturally commands respect. People notice the way she walks into a room with assurance, the way she speaks with conviction, and the way she refuses to compromise her truth. The power of her identity shines through without her needing to announce it. Her journey into embracing her identity transforms her from the inside out. Where she once felt fragmented, she now feels whole. Where she once doubted, she now believes. Where she once hid, she now stands tall. By finding strength in who she truly is, she unlocks the capacity to live with freedom, to lead with courage, and to step fully into the destiny that has been waiting for her all along. She steps closer to her destiny. She notices that the right people begin to appear in her life at the right time. These connections don't feel forced, and they don't come with confusion. They carry a sense of alignment, as though invisible threads have been weaving their way toward her all along. These are not ordinary encounters. They are divine connections, positioned to help her walk further into her calling. She begins to recognize that every meaningful relationship has a purpose. Some people come to guide her, some to sharpen her, some to open doors, and some to walk beside her as pillars of support. These connections breathe life into her vision instead of draining it. They speak words that lift her instead of diminish her. With them, she feels understood, seen, and strengthened in ways she never experienced before. This season also makes her more discerning about who she allows into her circle. She no longer entertains relationships that leave her exhausted or disconnected from her values. Instead, she treasures the ones that push her to grow, challenge her thinking, and remind her of the greatness she carries. She learns that her destiny is too valuable to be surrounded by voices that do not align with it. Many of these divine connections arrive unexpectedly. A chance conversation, a brief meeting, or a seemingly small introduction may lead to relationships that alter the course of her future. She begins to understand that timing is never accidental. The people who are meant to walk with her show up in seasons when she needs them most, and their presence confirms that she is not walking alone. These connections also demand reciprocity. She realizes that destiny is not just about receiving, but also about giving. As much as others pour into her, she is called to pour into them. The relationships built in this season are mutual, marked by trust, honesty, and shared vision. They are not transactional. They are transformational. Through divine connections, she is reminded of the power of unity. She understands that no great destiny is fulfilled in isolation. Just as iron sharpens iron, she needs people who can sharpen her. And in return, she becomes the iron for others, helping them unlock their own potential. This web of purpose-driven relationships strengthens her path while creating ripple effects that go beyond her immediate circle. At times, these new connections may replace old ones. She finds that as certain doors close, new ones open through relationships that align with her growth. Though it may feel bittersweet to release some ties, the arrival of divine connections reassures her that she is moving in the right direction. Destiny never leaves her empty. It always fills her with what she truly needs. These connections also challenge her to expand her vision. Where she once dreamed small, the people in her new circle push her to see greater possibilities. They remind her of her strength when she feels weak, They call out her potential when she doubts herself. Their presence ignites her fire and keeps her focused when distractions try to pull her off course. In their company, she feels safe to share her dreams without fear of ridicule. They encourage her to take bold steps, not because they flatter her, but because they believe in her assignment. These voices carry weight because they are aligned with her purpose. Their words plant seeds that grow into confidence, courage, and clarity. Each divine connection becomes a marker on her journey, a sign that she is walking the path set before her. Their influence reminds her that destiny is not just about where she is going, but also about who she is becoming along the way. These purposeful alignments confirm that she is being positioned, prepared, and propelled toward the future she was created to walk in. There comes a time when she realizes that waiting for every detail to make sense will only keep her stuck. The path ahead may not be fully visible, but she chooses to step forward anyway. This is what bold faith looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to move even while fear whispers in the background. She understands that destiny will not meet her in hesitation. It will meet her in motion. She begins to treat uncertainty differently. Instead of being paralyzed by what she cannot control, she learns to trust what she cannot see. She knows that if she waits for perfect clarity, she will miss the moments designed to shape her. So she takes the step, even if it feels small, even if it feels risky, because she believes that one step will lead to another, and then another until the vision becomes reality. Bold faith becomes evident in her choices. She no longer chooses based on comfort alone, she chooses based on conviction. She invests in opportunities that stretch her. She says yes to assignments that seem bigger than her, and she refuses to settle for less than what she was created for. This faith is not reckless. It is intentional, rooted in trust that there is purpose behind every move she makes. At times, moving forward in faith means going against the opinions of others. People may not understand why she leaves a secure place for an uncertain one, why she pursues a vision that looks impossible, or why she dares to believe in something that has not yet appeared. But she does not wait for their approval. Her faith gives her courage to move even if she has to walk alone for a season. The process requires endurance. Bold faith does not guarantee an easy journey. It simply guarantees that she will not walk it powerless. There will be moments when she questions herself, when the obstacles seem greater than her ability, and when the progress feels slower than expected. Yet even then, she refuses to stop. Each step becomes a declaration that she trusts the process more than the pressure. This faith also shapes the way she handles setbacks. Where she once would have seen failure as the end, she now views it as redirection. Every disappointment becomes a lesson, every delay a form of preparation. Bold faith allows her to see beyond the moment into the bigger picture, reminding her that nothing is wasted when she keeps moving forward. Her forward motion inspires others. People watch her walk with courage and begin to ask themselves what they are capable of if they, too, step out in faith. She becomes a living example that boldness is contagious, that courage multiplies, and that one person's decision to move can spark movement in an entire community. Bold faith also requires her to speak differently. She stops rehearsing words of fear and begins declaring words of expectation. She speaks life into her future, calling things into existence before they appear. Her language shifts from doubt to determination, from limitation to possibility. What she says reflects what she believes, and what she believes fuels the steps she takes. This kind of faith changes her posture. She carries herself with a quiet confidence, not because she knows everything, but because she trusts enough to keep going. There is a light in her eyes, a steadiness in her walk, and a determination in her spirit that reflects the strength of someone who has chosen belief over doubt. In moving forward with bold faith, she creates momentum. The very act of stepping out opens doors she could not have opened on her own. Opportunities meet her along the way, resources align with her needs, and clarity unfolds as she moves. The journey may be uncertain, but her decision to walk it boldly becomes the bridge between where she is and where destiny is waiting. So if you find yourself restless, rising, releasing, and ready, if you sense that shift in the air, it's because destiny is calling your name. Don't ignore it. Don't shrink back. Don't let fear steal what faith has prepared. Step into it. Because when a woman dares to embrace her destiny, she doesn't just change her life. She changes generations.